Welcome to another episode of Progress, Potential, and Possibilities, discussions with fascinating people designing a better tomorrow for all of us. I'm your host, Ira Pastor.
Welcome, everybody, again to another episode of our show today, bringing another really cool guest for you involved in science, technology, corporate venture capital investing, all focused on creating a better tomorrow for many people out there. On the show today, we have the honor of being joined by Komeil Nasrollahi, who is a seasoned innovation and business development leader. He currently serves as Senior Director of Innovation and Venture Partnerships at Siemens Healthineers. There he is charged with forging various strategic collaborations, ultimately identifying new venture opportunities, and ultimately accelerating a sort of their wide portfolio of transformative healthcare technologies. With an academic foundation in industrial engineering from Tsinghua University, as well as undergraduate work in civil engineering from Azad University in Iran. Komeil really blends technical fluency with a really impressive global business acumen. And prior to this role, Komeil held senior positions in driving business engagement and international investment, including leading market entry and growth initiatives across both China and the U.S., demonstrating really strong ability to navigate cross-cultural, high-stakes innovation ecosystems. And at this current role, he's really sits at a really interesting intersection of healthcare, of technology, and again, venture creation, ultimately identifying these high impact innovations that align with Siemens' overall mission to pioneer breakthroughs in healthcare for, as they say, everyone, everywhere, and sustainably. He's based here in the greater Philadelphia area, and his international exposure really brings him a unique ability to bridge not just diverse geographies, but diverse stakeholder groups along the way. And we're really honored to have him with us. A lot of really exciting topics to get into. Komeil Nasrollahi, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Oh, thanks, Ira, for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to a lot of the places we're going, and it was really interesting because I read all about you before, creating sort of my write up for the show today, and I really want to start off at the beginning because I was researching this town that you were from in northern Iran, known as Naushar, where aside from being sort of the location of the National Botanical Gardens of Iran, was also where your grandfather's flower shop was located, which was actually your first job when you were 8 years old. Take us a little bit sort of the early days and how we went from flower shop to, I guess, the first stage, civil engineering, and what got you into sort of construction initially.
Sure, would love that. So yeah, born and grew up in Iran, north of Iran. Naushar is right by Caspian Sea. So it's a very, it's a beach town basically. So a lot of people all across Iran, they come there, in the summers, go to the beach. So I grew up, very close to the beach, like our house, walking distance to the beach was like 10, 15 minutes. So I spent a lot of, summers, my childhood with my cousin, my friends, just going to the beach and playing there. And my grandpa, I would say he was the first entrepreneur in the whole family. Again, he was a vendor, so he was selling his stuff, buying his stuff and selling it. He went to Tehran, the capital, and the big bazaar, bought the stuff, a lot of stuff, and bring it to Naushar and selling it to the people. And eventually he transitioned, he kind of become very focused of selling flour to making bread. So his customer were, the bakeries all across the north of Iran, which is like a big region. So he was selling and distributing flours to them, to the bakeries. And he grew that business, single-handedly. Eventually he hired a lot of people. So he had a good, solid business. And that was around when I was in elementary. So I spent a lot of my time in summer, at his shop, just watching him, how he talked to people, how he, closed the deals, how he engaged with his employee, how he pays them. And he always, paying people on time. That was his thing. He never missed, it's like, oh, people get a work done, you have to pay them, even if you don't have the money, you borrow it and pay people first. So again, just having those experiences was very unique, kind of maybe that, that those interactions, those times kind of put that kind of entrepreneurship kind of seeds in me too. Just kind of later on when I went to China, I started my own business even in the US. So again, all thanks to Grandpa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you do, it seems like a lot of the places you stop along the way in your career, you sort of wear both hats, because sort of next, as you were just mentioning, you head from Iran, you go to China, and as I mentioned, you do your industrial engineering master's there at Tsinghua, and I checked again on your thesis, you were studying truck fuel consumption and carbon dioxide emissions from trucks. You're working one of the largest industrial companies in the world, at BP. But at the same time, you also set up a small independent business known as Silk Road International, where you're, talk a little bit your time at BP, a little bit of what got you into industrial engineering. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, I from someone like myself, I'm sitting here in Philadelphia. I've been to China before, but I was like, it's kind of difficult to sort of, as an independent entrepreneur, sort of set up my own shop there. Talk a little. You wore both hats, and I'd love for you to sort of talk about this as well, because I think it translates to what you do.
Maybe I can just maybe go one or two steps before that. So how I get to China, because that tells the better story, more comprehensive. So again, I studied in Iran. I did my undergraduate as a civil engineer, and I work as a civil engineer in the construction site. I was a manager of the sites, a smaller site, and life was good. I had a good job. Right after the college, I was working, I was making money. Then it was around Beijing 2008 Olympic. So all of that, right? So when I graduated and I was working, and I had always that curiosity to see, okay, what is happening outside Iran, right? What is happening outside my country? And I travel a lot all over to Iran. So, I've been all the places that I could go in Iran, but I always had that curiosity. It's like, okay, I don't know anything about, for example, China. I don't know anything about Russia. I don't know anything about the US. I don't know anything about, Canada or, Germany. So I had all these questions. I said, okay, maybe this is a time, I just graduated. I can always go in my early 20s, what I'm going to lose. If nothing works, I come back home, find another job. So I was looking around, and China was not in my list. I was looking, I had friends in Canada, I had friends in UK, I had friends in the US. So I was talking with a lot of people, getting more information. I say, hey, where's a good place to go? Maybe get a master's degree, maybe get a PhD, and then come back home. At least, you spend a couple of years outside the country and get the experience and come back. And again, China was not in my list, but we had a neighbor, in our house in Tehran. We had a neighbor that these two Chinese guys, they were teaching Chinese language in Tehran University, right? Okay. So they were living like 1 or 2 level above us, and again, it's a very cool guy. So I got to know them, and I kind of at the same time I was looking around, right? And they found out, I was looking around to, I was trying to go abroad, and they keep telling me, Komeil, you have to go to China, right? And I always, I never took them serious in the beginning. I said, of course you tell me, you're Chinese, you never tell me go to Germany, right? You're trying to sell China to me. And I said, no, if you really want to grow, if you really want to see stuff that is happening, China is the place to go. Trust us, go there. So I started, the more I talked to them, and I got more curious about China. I said, okay, it's a massive country. I don't know anything about China. Like, they have their own language, have their own culture, have their history. And this is, again, around 2008 Beijing Olympics, right? So China was all over the place. Wherever you looked, anything in the news has something with China in it. Mm-hmm. Right? It was like a starting of the golden age for expat, people, foreigners going to China, like flooding China, like doing businesses, studying. So, and these guys are, like, again, building cities over a weekend, or, building subway lines, overnight. Literally, they were building a stuff like in a massive industrial scale across the country. And it is a massive country. And the more I look into it, I said, wow, this is a place, if I really want to see stuff, if I really want to learn stuff, this is a place, because they are building it. US, Europe, Western countries, they already built this stuff in 70s and 60s, right? There's not much for me to see, So I decided, what? I'm going to China. So I got a one-way ticket from Tehran to Beijing. And I told my parents, give me at this, because my parents were not sure. No, I'm not sure. You don't know anybody in China. You don't speak the language. Even you don't speak English. So my English was very broken, right? And he said, what are you doing? Like, you have a job, why are you leaving everything behind and going to China? And again, told them same thing, like, I don't have anything to lose. If it doesn't work out, give me 6 months. If it doesn't work out, I'll come back. But I need 6 months. I have to try this thing. So I got a one-way ticket from Tehran to Beijing. So I got there, and I was like super confident that, I got this. I got to the airport. I never forget that night. Got to the airport, and I find this kiosk. They were selling the SIM cards, the local SIM cards. So I bought a Chinese SIM card, put in my phone, and I went outside to grab a taxi to go to the university who I signed up for. So they have this language program for foreigners in Beijing. So I got to the taxi. I'm sitting in the taxi, sitting in the back seat, and I'm telling, with very broken English to the driver that, hey, this is the place I want to go. And the guys keep looking at me. It's like he has no idea because he doesn't speak English, right? He has no clue what I'm talking about. And I keep insisting. And again, back then it was no Google Translate or those kind of stuff, right? Then I remember I had a phone number from somebody in Beijing. It was another Iranian guy. He was there a couple of years. So I just remember. So I called that guy, and he helped me, talk to the taxi driver to get me to the place I want to go. But yeah, long story short, I went there for 6 months, but I ended up spending 7 years there. And after 6 months, I told my parents, I want to stay here longer because it was fascinating. There's just the scale of this stuff that I never seen, and I never seen it even after I left China. I never saw it outside China. The scale of building, the technology, the fast pace of this stuff, it's just incredible. Then while I was there, I find this program at Tsinghua University. They had this industrial engineering program in the collaboration with Aachen University in Germany, right? Okay. So I said, okay, that sounds interesting. So, it's kind of tailored to foreigners. So I spent a year for the Chinese language. So I learned the Chinese language. I started my business before going to Tsinghua. I wish we can go back to that one, but try and answer your question. So I got to Tsinghua. I got to this program, the industrial engineering program with Aachen University. And it was a very fun program. So they had like around 30 to 40 German students from Aachen. Aachen University is kind of like exchange students. They had around maybe 40 to 50 Chinese students. And they had 20 international students like me that they were not part of the Chinese cohort or the German cohort, right? And these 20 international students, they were the fun group. So there were people from, again, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, US, Korea, UK, France, and me, and it was one or two other Iranian students too. So then I started my master's degree there. Then I found out they had this collaboration with BP, British Petroleum, on doing research and stuff. So I did my thesis with BP while I was at Tsinghua University. So again, long answer to your question, how I got to the BP. So I did my master thesis on the truck fuel consumption in China because there were a lot of data inefficiency. So there was not much data. Okay, how much trucks in China are using the fuel consumption, the CO2 emission, and so I created a mathematical model around it that kind of overcoming those data inefficiency.
And while we're still in China, say a couple words again, because you are an entrepreneur along the way. What was involved in setting up? Silk Road International was, again, leveraging sort of Chinese business internationally, and this will translate again to where we're going next in Chester County. But any interesting sort of like sub stories, anecdotes with
there's
Iranian
so
dude setting up an individual business in China?
So
why is there going to be BP?
Yeah. So I always had that, that curiosity that, hey, is there opportunity in the market? What can I do, right? Is there any value I could bring, right? Is there any gap here? So again, while I was in China, what I found out was, and there was a lot of business was going between, Iran and China, but most of it was on the, again, high level, like state level, like all this kind of stuff, like state companies, dealing with each other. But on the going under them, like, the private companies, small, medium-sized companies, that they also had a lot of, transaction. They were trying to get into the Chinese market, or, Chinese companies was trying to get to Iran markets, but there was nobody to help them or support them, right? So all the state guys, state level companies, they have their own, army of people who are supporting them, consultant. But when it's come to the private sector, nobody was doing anything. There was not much activity. So I find that gap. So okay, that's something, I could definitely bring some value. Being in China first, speaking the language second, and knowing the culture, can go around. So my clients don't have to come to China every week. I know I can do stuff for them on their behalf. So becoming their representative, doing, sourcing, contract negotiation and shipment, custom declaration, all of it I could get it done for them. But in order to do that, you have to have a business license, right? Legally, so you don't get in troubles, so you can do the bank transaction, all this kind of stuff. So, so I did my research. Okay, how can I, as a foreigners, how could you open a business, get in, for like the US, like LLC, like something very simple. Back then, it was not that simple. So again, this is around 2010. We were talking. So back then, it was like a law in China. As a foreigners, you could not have a fully owned enterprises. It has to be, a partnership, a joint venture with the Chinese partner. So I went around and find one of my Chinese friends, and he was doing his own business, but he was more on the kind of TV advertisement stuff. Very successful guy. So I pitched him, said, "Hey, I'm trying to open this business. This opportunity here." But I need a Chinese partner. I don't want to partner with anybody. I know you. We have that trust and relationship. Could we open a business? So we opened a business. He became my partner, business partner, kind of a shareholder in the company. So we opened a business, and we did started from there.
Nice. All right, so we've gone from Iran to China, and now we're making a really long flight to, of all places, Chester County. Pennsylvania, right down the road here. And again, here you serve in an incredibly important role of the Chester County Economic Development Council, in a really interesting role, sort of managing sort of the Chinese initiative and fostering trade between Chester County and China. And just for again, our viewers and listeners, Chester County is a pretty big county, a little south of the Philadelphia area, got about 500,000 people in it, many headquarters from Lavazza, North America, parts of J&J, Ricoh, Vanguard Group's headquartered there. Yeah, a lot of companies. Yeah. Again, talk a little bit about China to Westchester. That by itself is an interesting story. But at the same time, I read a little bit about some of, there was mushroom deals, there were some pharma deals. Again, talk about this role that you serve, because again, it's pretty unique and interesting.
So how I got to US is also interesting too. It was again all by coincidence, right? So I met my wife in Beijing. We both were doing the language program, right? And where's she from? She's from Hershey, Pennsylvania. That's her entire family, her dad, her mom, both grandparents, all around Hershey area, right? So everybody lives basically from, Harrisburg to Philadelphia. They're all located here. So she's very local people here. So she was doing a language program, exchange program in the same university I was doing my Chinese language. So we met, of course, and so we married in Beijing. So we married in Beijing around 2013. And after a couple of years, I was there for 7 years, around 2016. She was there for 6 years. And, she decided, I'm going to go back home. I want to be close to my family. I said, okay, where's home? And, she brought the maps and, here's Pennsylvania. And I never heard of Pennsylvania. I have no idea where Pennsylvania is. And so we moved here end of 2016. Again, we both were in China for a long time. So I sold my business. We moved here to be close to her family. Then, and again, I was same kind of thing happened to me. So I came into the US as very confident that, hey, I work in a couple of countries, I speak a couple of language, I have 2 engineering degrees, I had a businesses, so I should be easy for me to find a job. And it was, I was wrong. I came here and I was applying. And applying, I had a spreadsheet. I'm sure I still have it somewhere in my Google Drive. So I had a spreadsheet of all these companies I was applying, right? Left and right, 6 months, 8 months, nothing, like all silence, right? And I was following up with phone calls, right? Following up with phone calls, nothing, all already, silent. Then through a person I met outside, and they told me there's a Chester County, in Pennsylvania, they have this initiative. They're trying to expand, globally, not just in Chester County, but also again overall Southeast Pennsylvania, to bring more businesses here, to also attract more foreign direct investments, help the local companies here to get abroad to other markets. You should talk to them. I said, sure, I would love to. So they put me in touch. Back then was a county commissioner, Terrence Farrell, and he was the guy. He was the brain behind the whole idea. That, hey, how could we, as a local government, Southeast Pennsylvania, to be more engaging, more active in international business, supporting our local economy, by putting the more spotlight on the area, bring more foreign investment, foreign companies, more opening door for them, helping them do business here, and also the other side, taking our local companies to other markets. So they had this idea. They were working on it for a year or two, but there was no traction. Then I met them, and they find out about my experience. I say, we've been trying focusing on China, Southeast Asia, but we don't know much about that market. We don't have anybody with your experience. Would you be, interested joining, this initiative? I said, sounds great. Let's do it. Then I asked them. Well, I asked them during the interview. I said, what's the compensation? I said, oh, by the way, we don't have any money. We don't have any budget to pay. I said, okay, great. Is there any way, we could, how could we get the money? And they said, oh, we could, this is like a public-private partnership. What we could do is we could put you in touch with all these local companies through our network that we know, and they're supporting of this idea. You go pitch them this idea of, what I just described, bringing investment, helping companies, creating jobs. You go pitch them and see if we can, get, a sponsorship from them. So that was, again, by itself was another whole process, which we did that, and was, again, super fun. We met with all these, big local companies here, a lot of them, again, multi-billion-dollar companies, private companies, some of them public companies. So we pitched them the idea that, hey, we want to create more jobs, we want to bring more investment here, this is, sponsorship opportunities. So we did that program for almost 3-4 years. And we had so many delegation, 40, 50 delegation, we brought Chinese ambassador here, German ambassador here. We brought delegation from Ireland, Scotland, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, again, minister, deputy minister. So a lot of delegation we brought here, just putting a spotlight on this tiny corner of Pennsylvania. And a lot of these people, didn't know even Pennsylvania exists. But now they're coming to, outside Philadelphia, the Philadelphia suburb, So it was a very successful program.
Got it. Well, this is where we now transfer to Siemens, because this becomes a major part of your story. And again, it was quite interesting because, and before we talk about exactly what is involved in innovation and venture partnerships, could you just take a couple of minutes, Komeil, and sort of walk us, because Siemens obviously is, I suppose you are, familiar with that name, obviously one of the largest engineering firms in the world, multinational conglomerate, energy and rail and everything. Your health business, I never even realized this. I mean, your health business employs more people than I think most pharmaceutical companies. So of a 70-some-odd thousand, and again, involved in all digital tech, health products, imaging, diagnostics. Start off just with a little description of what Siemens is for those maybe less familiar, but take us into Siemens Health and a little bit of what you're doing here, because it by itself is an amazing standalone company. I think it is one of the it's on the stock exchange sort of separately from the main company, but take us to tell that story, and then we'll go into what your role in innovation and venture is all about.
Absolutely. So Siemens, again, is a big German conglomerate, right? So it's a B2B business. And again, we've been around, Siemens been around for almost 180 years. So it's not like a young company in the past or 20, 30 years. 180 years they've been around, and they've been building the stuff. They're, as you said, by default, they're an engineering company. They build the stuff, right? And for many years, it's always been in Siemens, and they had their different division. Around 10 years ago, they kind of divided and give every single business more independent. So they have their own board. So now we have, Siemens, for example, mobility. So anything on the train, on the rails, all those kind of stuff is Siemens Mobility. We have Siemens Energy. So anything on the related to energy business goes to the Siemens Energy. And we have Siemens, healthcare, or Siemens Healthineers. So anything on the medical devices, or medtech, is in the Healthineers side. But we all is still part of the, under the umbrella of Siemens AG, our parent company. But every business has their own kind of stocks, in the Frankfurt stock market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So please. So on the Healthineers side, just kind of talking a little bit more about that. So we, as you said, we have 70,000 employee, over 70,000 employee. We have offices in almost 80 countries. Legal entities in 80 countries. We sell in 180 countries. So it's almost impossible you go to any hospital around the world, or any healthcare system, not seeing one of our, devices. So we are big imaging diagnostic business. Anything on the MRI, CT, X-ray, mammo, ultrasounds. Then we have a lab diagnostic business. So anything on the central labs. If you draw the blood, when you go to LabCorp or the Quest Diagnostic, so all those blood samples, they go to a central lab. So we make all those equipment in the central lab, all those reagents in the central lab. And a couple of years ago, around 3-4 years ago, we acquired a company in California. They are on the radiation therapy side. So on the cancer therapy, radiation therapy. So now we're not just a diagnostic company, we're also a kind of a therapy business as well.
And again, we've profiled folks that are sort of in sort of the corporate venture capital ecosystem at various companies, pharma and beyond. But it seems like what you're doing here in terms of innovation venture management is a little more than that. I mean, it's part corporate venture capital, but then it's scouting, and then sort of a third arm of it. It looks like there's a lot of incubation going on because you have such an amazing ecosystem there, not just to sort of invest in these technologies, but to sort of bring them in the right parts of the company to gestate them, let's say, whether that's imaging, AI, digital health. Talk a little bit about what the role is in your part of the organization, and just a little bit of what your day-to-day is like involves, because you're not just putting down bets and walking away and hoping the company succeed. You're doing a lot more.
Yeah, so you're right. So again, one thing, as I said, we are engineering companies, right? So we build this stuff, and we know for many years we've been successfully building very high quality products that our customers around the world, they love it. But we also at the same time, we know we cannot build everything by ourselves, right? Not all the innovation has to happen or need to happen inside Siemens. There's so many innovation, there's so many smart people, there's so many startups that are doing incredible stuff outside Siemens, that they're building this stuff. And so we were thinking about how could we bring those innovation to the market, right? One thing about us that makes us very different than any other VC or any of our competitors are our distribution channel, right? We have a reach, we have an infrastructure to work with customer globally in a massive scale that nobody does. Even the biggest VC, even all the VC combined, they don't have our infrastructure. They don't have that customer contact. They don't have that that's reach, that distribution, that go to markets, right? So we have that. So and that's what we offer to the startups. That's what we offer to the young companies in the healthcare that's relevant to our business. That hey, we're not here. We're not trying to do a VC job. We're not just trying to write you a check and then let you figure it out. We can do better. You can get the VC fund, you can get the money, anywhere else you want it. But when it's come to the customer, when it's come validating your solution, when it's want to scale your business, we are the best partner for you. Yeah. So let us help you to bring your technology to the market faster in a bigger scale. And for my day-to-day job is talking with the startups all day long. So I have my own kind of backgrounds, I have my own business. So I really enjoy talking to founders, and these guys they're so smart, they're so expert in their field. So I really enjoy just spending time with them and just asking like sometimes like a simple question, just explain this to me, how this works, how are you going to the market, what problem you're solving, what's the outcome, what's the feedback you're getting from the customers, right? And then, having those information, knowing the startups, what problem they're solving. At the same time, we engaging in a lot of conversation. We have a lot of conversation with our customers. So what their problem, what they're trying to solve, what else they're looking for that we don't have, we can offer to them. We cannot offer to them, right? So kind of making that match. Hey, there's a company has this solution. We know about your problem. Can we bring it to you? Can we solve your problem?
And along those lines, what is the sort of the in terms of the strategic focus? Obviously, you're involved in lots of different areas, as I mentioned, from precision medicine to imaging and theranostics and all this. But sort of what's the earliest? I mean, because I notice you're out there and sort of, in the circuit, and you're going out to universities and talking at different conferences on sort of your role here as you sort of, beyond traditional venture capital. But what's sort of the earliest that you look? I mean, if there's like a graduate student at Westchester University that has a really cool AI idea, is that too early? Sort of, where do you guys get involved typically in terms of sort of the breadth of where investors may come in different parts of the development stage of a company. I'm thinking more from sort of my experience in biopharma, but when it comes to med tech, like, what's the earliest you'll look at something?
So those are again pre-seeds or angel investment side is too early for us. So because also our market is heavily regulated, right? So we have like in the US we have like FDA, but every single country, every single market has something like FDA. So we have to get the kind of regulatory approval. We cannot just bring the stuff to the customer side. We cannot just sell the stuff to the customer side, right? So we're always looking for somebody has some kind of traction, earlier stage, maybe in the Series B, maybe in the Series C, nothing on the pre-seeds, Series A, sometimes even early. So somebody already have something, as a solid solution, as something, maybe they validated here or there, maybe they can have one or two kind of references that, hey, we tested this customer side, they really like it, solving this problem. So those are the kind of, again, earliest stage, but not super early. So again, if it's going to back to your question, if it's like just, just the students with a laptop and a great idea for AI model, is too hard for us. It's just too early for us. We cannot do much with them. But if it's like a handful of a team, a small team, they're building something, could be on the tech side, could be on the hardware side or software side. That's something, we could, take it to the customer, get their feedback. Hey, this is something, we can really scale.
And again, we can take the Siemens Healthineers portfolio and divide it, from imaging into diagnostics into sort of the therapeutics and the sort of the, as you were mentioning before, the theranostics connection, and then of course everything digital health, artificial intelligence, the twins, digital twins, and all that. When it comes to sort of, obviously, you got some great thought leaders in the organization, and they task you, obviously, to go out and find the best of the best to bring in house. But when it comes to sort of the, I always refer to sort of the next sort of looking over the horizon, whether we're 5-10 years out. At whether it's quantum this or edge computing that, or the next thing, and I'm talking out of my sphere because I'm a life sciences guy. But where are we headed? I mean, what are the themes that, looking at the current Siemens portfolio that you manage, and realizing that, hey, in 10 years we're going to be at the Precision Health 2035 now as opposed to 2025? What gets you excited? What are some of the let's say, riskier types of things that maybe Siemens saying, hey, Komeil, go out and check out this stuff. It's not happening yet, but we want to make sure we get our fingers in this stuff before anybody else.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff is actually happening. So again, to your point, we're always looking at something, 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years, where should we be in 10, 15 years in terms of technology? How our customers' needs is evolving in the next 5 years or 10 years? And one example I can give you right away that, we're always looking at them, and especially recently we spent more time on it, is medical robotics. In the US, we have the companies, I don't need to name them, but everybody knows them. They're companies, very strong in the medical robotics on the surgery side. But outside surgery, we don't see anything when it comes to medical robotics, simple stuff like patient transportation. Like that's require a human or two to move a patient. That means, you're using two of your labor that, you already have, already have a shortage on the workforce, right? There's a workforce shortage and challenge across the world, especially on the developed countries, right? You already are squeezed on, in terms of the labor. Then you have to spend 2 or 3 people just moving a patient. Could we do that with a robot? No, and it doesn't have to be a humanoid robot, because a lot of people think about robots, they always think, something, is walk around, have hands, act like us. No, a robot could be a smart bed that you command the bed that, hey, you program the bed, you talk to the bed that, hey, take the patient from room A, bring it to room B or room C. Hey, take the patient for an MRI scan. Take the patient for a CT scan, right? That's one area. So another area is like, like on the in the hospitals, they have, most hospitals have their own pharmacy. That's another, that can be fully automated pharmacy. So it's open 24/7. So if you go there, something happens, you go there in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., You don't have to wait for them to open the pharmacy, or they don't have to spend one or two people running the pharmacy at 3 a.m. Can we automate that whole pharmacy? Again, helping our customers, the healthcare system, how to navigate this whole workforce shortages. And I think the answer is medical robotics. We don't have any other answer. We cannot just bring more people. There's not enough people to train to bring to the job. But medical robotics, I think, would be helps a lot of our customers in the near future.
And then just as a one side to that, because again, looking through the portfolio, I know you had a lot going on, not just in hospitals, but also I noticed some stuff in sort of the senior living facilities, and again using these smart technologies and these different solutions. And one thing popped up was this hospital at home thing, and the whole theme of aging in place has been such a hot topic for us. Are you thinking much? And again, if I'm getting into confidential stuff, just tell me to shut up. But in terms of the home care, because the silver population, the over 65 population has been such an important theme for us, and where all this age technology is headed. Anything exciting happening on that front in your portfolio?
So we always again follow our customers, right? So whenever our customer asks us, hey, there's a huge demand here, there's a huge problem for us here. So we are looking in that space. Some of our customers are asking us, for the outpatient kind of services, instead of bringing all the patients for non-emergent stuff to the hospital, can we, provide those services outside the hospital's walls, right? So if you need just a simple X-ray, it's nothing emergency, you just need a routine X-ray, or you just need a routine ultrasounds, or just need to see a nurse or doctors. You don't have to come to the emergency room. They don't have to come to the hospitals, because that drain those resources, the scarce resources that hospitals have, right? So could we provide those services outside the hospital walls? So again, those are kind of the whole concept of the decentralized care or outpatient services. And part of that is, can we provide those services at home? So if it's an elderly person, that they don't have to walk or get in the car and drive, to the hospitals or to the center, imaging center. Can we do the imaging at home? And again, you cannot bring an MRI to the home, right? What else we could bring to the home? Could we think about a smaller solution, mobilized solution that we could bring to the home and provide those services to the patients.
Cool, very cool. Komeil, I mentioned before how you get out there quite a bit at the different conferences, and you get to universities too. I saw that you were at this Resi conference in Boston just a couple of weeks ago, I think, talking about corporate venture capital, and I think doing some competition judging. What else, in terms of the broader network, when you get out there on the road, what else is coming up on that front in terms of getting the Siemens Healthineers message out there in these different forums that we should know
So
about?
there are always, there's so many conferences happening. So we always try to get involved where we see, at least my team and I, where are the startups are going, where the investors are going. So there's a big one is coming in New York actually in December, early in December, is a healthcare summit by Piper Sandler. So it's a big investment bank. So they have a 3 days healthcare investment summit. They have over, I think, 300-400 companies. A lot of them are a younger company, and not necessarily a startup in a sense of two guy or 2% with a laptop, but companies that have a solution but they need either funding or they need a strategy like us to scale. So that's a big one. The next big one is JP Morgan Health, that every year in San Francisco in January. So that's another good one that we always go. We attend and we build, again, meeting a lot of the startups. They pitch their solution to us. We also reconnect with our VC contacts, to understand again their portfolio, how they're evolving their portfolio, what other new companies they have, where they're investing, how they're investing. And again, is there anything that we should know about, any new technology, any new solution that they're working on that we could bring to our customers?
Well, interestingly, again, as we've discussed each chapter of your journey, you're always doing more than what we're the core issue, and clearly, aside from your responsibilities at Siemens, you took on other important responsibilities in the Chester County area, namely teaching. And I neglected to mention that you are on the adjunct faculty at Westchester University of Pennsylvania over here. And you know, you're not just, I just think I read your teaching courses in international business, new venture creation, entrepreneurship, business and society, but you've also helped sort of in the local scene, working with students to launch business. This one, I got to, I love artisan breads and cheeses, but you worked with the students to create this thing called NASBA, which was NASB, an online platform for all the local artisan businesses in the Chester County area, farmers and small producers of, you know, I guess small batches of beers and things like that. Again, you know, I guess this speaks a lot to about you, that you're not always thinking about one thing, but you're giving back as well in terms of teaching here to the next generation, but also helping them start businesses. Say a little bit of what's going on at the university, what you're teaching this semester, and a little bit of.
So I do. So I got in. Approached by university a couple of years ago, maybe like 6-7 years ago, and they reached out to me and said, hey, you know, they knew me through my job back then, and say, hey, you know, all this stuff, international stuff is happening, you're doing, you know, we have a, you know, minor in international business, and you know, we have an MBA, online MBA classes, you know, would you be interested, you know, to come and, you know, tell your experience, you know, day to day with your students, because, you know, we don't have a lot of people with those kind of experience. And I never thought about it. Said, you know, that why not? So, so I took it on, and it, kind of a selfish reason, I'm continuing to do it because it's really keep me on my toes, you know, with my students, because they're some of them are super smart kids, and they ask a lot of questions. So, you know, I try to, you know, bring the experience I had, you know, the stuff I did, the stuff that, you know, didn't work, the stuff that worked, you know, day to day, my jobs, examples, you know, real world examples, bringing to them, and kind of getting that very engaging classroom environment. So we don't have like a typical kind of a lecture, you know, I just read through the slides. So there's a lot of cases study in the class that is students, you know, get involved. So I asked them, hey, this is, you know, this case happens in Japan, this case happens in China, this is, you know, blew up. You know, if you were the CEO, what would you do? So again, really hands-on classroom environment, and that's, again, I do it mainly again for myself because I really enjoy it. I really enjoy that interaction, you know, with the students, and again, sometimes they also bring some perspective that I never thought about that problem. So again, learning from the students also is, again, is a super fun environment. Again, university in general is a super fun environment to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, and it's always interesting when I don't have too many students that come on the show, but occasionally there's someone that has, you know, I'm amazed by the ideas, let's just say, that are coming out of the next generation. I tell my kids, I'm like, well, come up with some decent business ideas too, but we'll keep that for later. But Komeil, what else is coming? You do so much. I mean, what else is coming up as we get towards the end of the year? What should we be on the lookout for in 2026? Any other new public-facing initiatives that we should know about while we have you today? And then anything else that I missed while we have you, please?
No, I think we're fully covered, honestly. But yeah, so as I said, you know, we go to a lot of conferences. So I go, you know, the JP Morgan Health is the big one that I'm going in January. There's another one in March. So I still have to, you know, move my calendar around so if I can get there too. Again, just interacting with the community, right? Because my message has been, at least, you know, that, hey, we are open to innovation. We are open to external innovation. You know, we understand that, you know, as a Siemens, you know, we are a very big, successful company. But again, we need more innovation to solve more problems, because, you know, our customers, they don't have, you know, their problems is evolving. Their needs are evolving. So we need more inputs. We need more technology to solve our customer and the patient's problem. So again, just getting out there and telling people, you know, we are open to work with them, because sometimes I feel like this stigma is, you know, a Siemens is just such a big company. First of all, as a small company, who should I talk to at Siemens? We have 70,000 employees. You know, who you want to talk to, right? Who's the right person, right? And again, sometimes people are afraid, you know, these big companies coming here, if they taking my technology, maybe they, you know, I can't do anything about it. So again, we trying to go out there and telling people that, hey, you know, this is a safe environment. Come here. You know, we put you in front of the customers. You know, really help you to scale your business.
Yeah, that's the That is such an important. To refresh that point, the issue of the technology is great, but the scalability. I've heard that from a bunch of other people that will come on the show that a business missing that, and I think this is one of the sort of the wonderful
Right.
reasons to work with a group like Siemens, in the sense that it's one thing to create your one item, but when you got to get it to millions like you do as a
Yeah.
company, you got to have a right partner. And so I think what you're bringing is so much. It's very refreshing, let's just say, compared to the environment that I came up in 20 years ago, where it was just here's some money and try your
Yeah.
best, kid. But no, but it's impressive. It's been impressive listening to your journey, but also what you're doing now is really in terms of, as you say, moving this mission forward and for everybody, breakthroughs for healthcare for everyone everywhere in a sustainable fashion. I wish you and the team the best with it as you continue to move it all forward. It's an exciting story. Again, for everybody out there that is going to be listening to this episode across the various podcast networks, or who will be watching on the YouTube channel, again, you've been spending time with Komeil Nasrollahi, Senior Director, Innovation and Venture Partnerships, Siemens Healthineers. Komeil, I want to thank you for taking the time out to walk us through your journey. Thank you for everything you do there at Siemens to advance human health. And as we like to say on our show, thanks for helping to create a better tomorrow for so many people out there via the type of science and technology you champion and innovation and entrepreneurship along the way. Really a great story.
Ira, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This was super fun.
Yeah, it was a great discussion. Really enjoyed it.